Hello friends, welcome to Science Talk, and I'm going to discuss with you the growing risk of extreme heat and humidity. Basically a 1-2 nasty combo. Hazards multiply when extreme heat and humidity join in lethal combination. Scientists now know exactly where this twin danger could be greatest. So, for example, by the close of the century, this 1-2 combo of extreme heat and humidity could make the North China Plain a deadly zone. As water vapor rises from irrigated farmland and heat extremes, then air temperatures and moisture conditions could become such that outdoor workers could no longer cool by perspiration. The whole idea is you perspire, then the moisture is wicked off your skin, creating a cooling effect, and it cools you down. But if you can't do that, and there are areas like in the Middle East that also predict this sort of thing was predicted, then you become what's conditions called hyperthermic, not hypothermic. Hypo means cooling down. Hyperthermic is basically you overheat. And overheating, well, let me give you an example. How many times you've heard someone, someone came in 106 fever Fahrenheit. That's very dangerous because, again, to really hot temperatures, what happens to the proteins? Proteins start to denature. They start to break down. We are comprised of proteins, right? This is protein, my skin. Right? This is protein. Right? We're put together by proteins, and also functional proteins as well to conduct physiological processes. So, if you become hyperthermic, your proteins will start breaking down. It'll kill you. In such circumstances, no normal, healthy person could survive more than 6 hours. And since 400 million people already live on the North China Plain, by 2070, the consequences of ever greater temperatures could be devastating. And this research that is reporting this can be found in the journal Nature Communications. Simultaneously, a second study in another journal, PLOS, maybe you've heard me mention that publication to you before, confirms that by 2080, excess deaths from extremes of heat will have risen in the tropics, subtropics, and even the temperate zones. What's left for humans? Pretty much subarctic. In 3 of Australia's great cities, deaths from heat waves will have risen by more than 470%. The warning to China, or for China, the warning for China, which already emits more greenhouse gases than any other nation. I think China just recently surpassed the U.S. on this. It's based on what meteorologists call wet bulb temperature. Now, I don't know if you ever did this in grade school, but you would go out there, you have 2 temperatures. You have a normal thermometer, then you have another thermometer with a little piece of cloth that was moistened, attached to the bulb of the thermometer, and you went around, you kind of like, twirled it in the air a little bit, and the greater the difference in the 2 readings indicates less humidity. The closer the 2 readings were to each other, that means the greater the humidity or the moisture content of the air was. It was a way to tell you how saturated the air is when you did that little thing. So basically, it's also not just measuring temperature, which is a measure of heat, which is a measure of molecular kinetic energy, but also the humidity content. When this climbs towards the natural body temperatures of humans and other mammals, animals, conditions become dangerous. Right? Hyperthermic is the main concern. Now, just as a point, if you have 100% humidity, the difference between the wet and the dry bulb temperature readings is 0. So, the study that was published in Nature Communications, the author is El-Tahir and a colleague at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Professor El-Tahir first identified the additional hazard of humidity in extremes of heat with the simulation of close-of-the-century temperatures that pinpointed the Gulf region between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula as a zone where temperatures could become lethal. The worst extremes would be over water, well, because the humidity problem. A second examination of likely conditions under what climate scientists call the business as usual scenario, in other words, stick your head in the sand, we'll keep doing what humans are doing. Basically, pinpointed Asia as the continent most at risk of lethal heat extremes for the greatest numbers of people. Now, when you look at the Eurasia landmass, there's more landmass in the temperate latitudes there than for, say, North and South America. Think about that. The latest study is a refinement of the projections and is based on evidence from the most recent 3 decades. Warming in the North China region has been double the global average, 0.24 degrees C per decade, compared to 0.13 degrees C for the rest of the world, not counting the Arctic. Okay? And the Arctic is even more so. In 2013, there were extremes of heat that lasted for up to 50 days, and maximum temperatures topped 38 degrees C, which is getting really up there. And by the way, the Arctic over 40 years has seen 3 to 4 degrees C increase, which is about a 0.75 to 1 degree C per decade, just to put that in context. So, now they identify irrigation key. So the potential lethal factor for the region is likely to be irrigation. Rainfall in the north is low. Evaporation from the soil moisture adds around another 0.5 degrees C to local temperatures. Remember, I just did a video segment where I discussed water vapor. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas. And I discussed in that video the synergistic combinatory effects of CO2 and water vapor. So Professor El-Tahir says this spot is just going to be the hottest spot for deadly heat waves in the future, especially under the changing climate situation. So the second study I alluded to earlier, and I'll discuss a little more with you, is PLOS, or the Public Library Science Journal, in PLOS Medicine. And they look at the extremes of heat combined with higher hazard from humidity are already on the increase, and will continue with ever greater ratios of CO2 in the atmosphere. And this has now been firmly established by scientific research and statistical data analyses. So this new study looks at the risk of more than 400 communities in 20 countries for the decades 2031 to 2100, and it is again based on the humans continue doing what they're doing. According to the most dire of the predicted outcomes, if the world goes on warming according to current trends, the levels of heat-related excess mortality, which is a phrase statisticians use for death by heat stroke or heat exhaustion, then deaths in Colombia, so they're looking at South America, by 2080 have risen by 2,000%. Even in Moldova, which is a country with the lowest risk, they will see a rise of 150%. Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, the hazard will have increased by 470%, which is a value I cited to you earlier. So, we've known for a while that heat will kill, right? There was a heat wave some time ago. Was it like, I think 2003, 2004, something like that in Europe. And there were tens of thousands of people who died. There was a heat wave struck Russia, I think about a decade ago, 2009, 2010, where, again, many people die from the heat. So, Yuming Guo of Monash University in Australia, who led the research that's published in the PLOS Medicine Journal, states that future heat waves in particular will be more frequent, more intense, and will last much longer. If we cannot find a way to mitigate climate change, basically reduce heat wave days, as he puts it, and help people adapt to heat wave, there will be a big increase of heat wave related deaths in the future, particularly in poor countries located around the equator. So, combination of heat and humidity, if things continue as they are, if steps are not taken to reduce what we're doing, we'll start killing people in droves. That's basically the take-home message. Because remember, water vapor is a greenhouse gas, and if the humidity is too high, you cannot rid the excess heat that leads to stresses on the body. And if you're particularly vulnerable, you have health issues, elderly, ill, it's not going to bode well. And overall, it's not going to bode well for people. You've heard me discuss with you before that Earth has been considerably warmer in the past, and it was too warm for humans. So, high heat, high humidity, bad combination. That's basically the message here. Thank you for your time. Hey folks, this is Jim here reminding you to subscribe to this channel, to share my videos, tell others of the work that I do here. I also ask that if you are not already a patron at Patreon, to please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. You can find the information in the description box below the video. I'm asking you to help support the work that I do. I do not take any money from corporations or from any other sources, so the information I share with you is the actual science as it comes out of the peer-reviewed journals. So there is no BS, there's no propaganda, there's no agenda. It's just I present the science and I explain to you what it means, or at least my interpretations of it, based on my own experience as a scientist. I want this channel to grow. I consider, while I discuss many different topics here, you notice I do focus a lot on climate issues. I consider climate change to be the most pressing issue facing humanity today. Thus, I consider it important to disseminate this information to a wider and wider, more and more people. And I need your help to do this. So, yes, please subscribe. Please tell others of the work that I do here. Please share my videos on social media platforms, with your social media groups, what have you. We need to get this information out there. So for those of you who are supporting me on Patreon, I thank you greatly for your support and continued support. It does mean a lot to me. So together we can get this information to more and more people. Thank you. Thank you for your support.